Hello everyone, Turner Burner here with another video for you guys. I am going to do a solo explanation on my gameplay as Blademaster on the Surge. This can also work as a Blademaster tutorial to help you enhance your gameplay and your Blademaster style in Master Escape if you so choose to. The cards I used for this were Short Range, Shock Chain, Venom Blade, Venom Resistance, and Thrill of the Hunt. I could go into detail on those cards, but a better explanation will be the Lahni slash Blademaster skill cards video, which I'll put in the link in the description. I recommend highly to watch that video, then come back to this one. And if you guys end up liking the video, like it and let me know your feedback because I can make more of these types of tutorial videos if you guys like these more than the regular gameplay videos I typically post. So let's get right into it. So in the Surge specifically, there are three paths if you're doing this solo that you could take to get to the safe room. There's the right side is really not a legitimate option as Lahni, and because it has salvo signs and a bunch of drones and grenadiers. Middle side has mulcher scions, and then the left side has M-bar and drones. So the left side by default, because there's no scions, is the side you want to pick. Right here, I'm just waiting for Venom because I have Venom Blade that allows me to get bleed damage and Venom Resistance that allows me to have better defense from enemies while in Venom. So the left side has M-bar, so you can stun enemies, after the safe room, some of the elites if necessary, and some of the scions. Okay. So the first step here is to trigger the juvies. There's about 6 juvies in the middle, and since if you go middle or left path, you trigger them, you have to kill them. So what I do is trigger and fall back to the Venom. You want to make sure you melee and dodge when you, as Blademaster. You don't want to just stand next to a swarm of juvies. You want to get a habit of always moving and always avoiding hits because it doesn't take the initial damage Blademaster takes now is more substantial than it was in other operations. So you want to make sure you take as much or take as little initial damage as you possibly can. So trigger the other side's juvies. I don't necessarily need to do this, but I want to do this to charge my ultimate because I plan on using my ultimate on the left-hand side. So one knife should bleed out a juvie. My Lahni is all level 6s except for a few of the new cards that are introduced in Operation 4 and Operation 5. So there's a couple more juvie. I think this may be the last juvie that comes. Juvies have a habit of meleeing you twice under a second, so you always want to get the jump on the juvie. Make sure you melee it first before it melees you, because you're only 2 melees from the game ending. So this next step I do is I hug the left side to make sure I don't get hit by hunters and drones, because I want to trigger the pouncers, because this also charges my ultimate, and it allows me to get 2 very, very annoying enemies out the way. So I make sure I don't get hit. I just do random movements to make sure I don't get hit by any hunters or drones because I'm not in Venom. Now that I am in Venom, I can wait for the pouncers. I check back behind me because there are more juvies in that middle section that could sneak up on me, and that could end the game. So I'm being mindful of that. Okay. So these 2 pouncers are going to come, and you just got to make sure they don't jump on you. Jumping on you doesn't necessarily end the game, but it's just really annoying. So that one tried to jump on me, so I heard him leaping, so I make sure I did a side roll, and I just triple combo, and then I have 2 whole pouncers out of the way. So for the rest of the before safe room process, I only have 1 pouncer in the supply room. So the left side has drones, hunters, and rejects. And the drones and hunters are very, very annoying. They just stand there, and then they just, shoot their guns, and they don't push you at all, so you can't get any knife kills via that. You have to rush them. And typically, it's not very safe. So the best way to do this as Operation 5 Blademaster is try to shock chain as many as you can. So I'm waiting till more venom fills up the entire area. That way I can hop from enemy to enemy using my shock chain. So I plan on shock chaining this drone that's on this cover in a very weird way. And when I do that, I accidentally hop the barrier because it's the same button. So you shock chain there, then I move, shock chain is recheck, then I move. And then I try to get, since these guys are in Venom 2, I try to shock chain them as well. So as you can see, my ultimate's ending, but because the shock chain is still going, there's like a residual effect, and I'm halfway towards my ultimate again. That's something you should notice if you're going to be Blademaster. So some enemies, either relocated or, moved entirely, so I have to knife them. The drones pushed towards where I was for some reason, which I was really annoyed by, honestly. Short range deflection almost protected me from being down right there and right there. The passive gives me all the healing. And I make sure to do the B execution because I was getting really annoyed with these drones. So in the supply room here, there's a pouncer. Like a triple combo and a half gets rid of a whole pouncer. You don't necessarily need to do two full ones. It's just more natural to do it. So I make sure to get all the M-bar ammo because it's mainly for if I want to snipe some enemies. There's a joke that someone always mentions me picking up cog tags and solo runs, so I laugh at the cog tag there. I don't know if they notice, but it was just supposed to be fun there. But I use the M-bar because it's mainly for the scions after the safe room. I M-bar these guys just because I know that there's blue boxes in that supply room. And let's see, I think there's 2 more drones since I just headshotted 2 drones. So just got to be careful of them. Melee this one, and then move to the next one. So with Blademaster, you want to be constantly moving because you really don't want to take a whole lot of initial damage. In the Surge, there's always 2 salvo scions that come from that side and push the LZ. I believe it's a Venom trigger. So as I get these blue boxes, when I come back out, I got to be careful of the salvo scion. So that's the first one. And then I plan on headshotting him here in a second once I make sure he's not going to be shooting. And then that's it. So there's one more salvo scion I got to be mindful of. You can get up to 15 M-bar, so I want to make sure it's completely full before I go towards the LZ. And get some talent. You never know when you'll need bullets. With solo runs, you want to, in general, pick up as much ammo as you can because you never know when you're in situations like if you're at the LZ, you need to shoot something. So I don't use this salvo in the game, but I pick it up out of habit of like, okay, I may need the salvo for something. You just never know how these games are going to go. So it's better to have and not need. So after the safe room, you can pick up stim. You can pick up stim in the safe room, but there's like a little. There's a little, I'm going to pause it, there's a little area down the ways that has 2 Multra Scions and 2 Salvo Scions, right? So when you're in these solo runs, you want to be as efficient as possible. You want to get rid of game-ending enemies as quickly as possible. So for this game specifically, the number one game ender, regardless of whatever, is elite drones. So if you can get rid of elite drones faster than other enemies, you want to do that. Number 2, in my opinion, in this particular map, is Multra Scions. So if you can get rid of them first, that's ideal. And number 3, for me, is the Salvo Scions. They can end the game because they shoot while stunned. The salvo is incredibly lethal. If you get hit by once of it, typically the game's over. And they can shoot it across map. So those 3 enemies, you want to be very careful as Blademaster in general, or as Blademaster specifically on the Surge, whether it's solo or not. It doesn't really matter. The solo runs is mainly to showcase how good a class can be on a particular map if you utilize it, within the parameters of the game correctly. But you do want to be careful of these game-ending enemies. So let's just see how. I'll show you how I deal with some elite drones and how I deal with some salvo and mulcher scions. But my goal right here, if I can get a view on him, is to trigger both mulcher scions forward. That way, I can get rid of them sooner rather than later. So, as is typical for Operation 1 or launch maps, so I headshot that elite drone. I'm a melee character. I could bleed him out, but I decided to use the M bar. It's a little bit faster, a little bit better decision. So I want to make sure I know where everything is. Elite hunters can also in the game because one melee will kill you. So I'm trying to trigger the mulcher scions forward. So I'm shooting them to try to trigger them. So that should do it. I'm not 100% sure if it does, but I'm always mindful of that. So the juvie comes in. I just melee him. So I'm looking for the salvo just in case I need it. You just want to be prepared. I thought I got hit by something, but I guess I didn't. So yeah, the salvo scions for some reason mulcher scions weren't triggered at all. Okay, now he comes forward. I didn't understand that a whole lot. So one of the mulcher comes forward, and that allows me to only deal with, that basically I achieve my goal here. Because I know if it's a lot easier to deal with one mulcher scion by himself than it is to deal with a mulcher scion plus another mulcher scion and two salvo scions. So I melee him twice. Luckily, I had stem there, so I survived that. I may have died otherwise. And then, so I now have 3 scions before the 2 at the LZ. So because of this new Lahni and the way her defense works, I'm very, very careful of elite drones. As you can see, they shoot while stunned, which is complete BS. So you got to be careful of that as well. Sometimes they don't even get stunned. So you just got to be mindful of these enemies. So the next step is I try to trigger the other mulcher scion, but he's not moving right now. So I kind of have to move on. So I go to this section. I completely botch my melee here, which I don't know if it's the game's fault or my fault, but I try to move on as quickly as possible. So I see a bunch of elites here. So here's another thing you want to be mindful of with solo runs. So with solo runs, you want to be, and I've said this before, but I want to really stress this. Because it's just one of you, I mean, I hate to state the obvious, but because it's just one of you, you need to be efficient. You need to kill things as fast as possible. You need to charge roll as fast as possible. You need to clear out enemies and then move on to the next section. You don't have time to kill enemies in a traditional sense. If you're waiting for, like, as an example, Keegan to revive you or use salvo, Paddock to put enemies in fear, those are things that can be helpful, but you do not have any of those luxuries. So what you need to be mindful of the fact that is just you. So in this context, I see a reject. Let's see, just on camera, I know there's more to my left, but on camera I see a reject, 3 elite grenadiers, and an elite drone in the distance, and I could spend, a long time killing all of them, but I know that, as you can see by the bottom right of the map, the Venom's kind of here. I need to be more active before the doors close because I have a lot more to do than just this section. So what I do is I use shock chain, and also why I use shock chain is there's, I think 4 or 5 lanes in the surge. This far left lane has poppers. So what I want to do is I want to use shock chain to kill poppers as opposed to me getting up close and using my knife. So I know that this shock chain is close enough to that left side to kill the poppers. So efficiency and getting rid of another potential game ender is very, very useful in this context. So let's just see how it plays out. So I see Elite Grenadier, and I see another reject. So I wait for him to shoot again, and then I pop my ult. And then I hop from enemy to enemy, and there's an elite drone there. See, this is why it's another reason why it's good to use shock chain, because you really don't know everything that's around. So I get the popper, I get a bunch of juvies that they can also in the game, and those guys are just one melee and they're dead. So and now the Multrasound's coming. I don't know why he decided to come now as opposed to before. So now I'm going to get rushed by an assortment of enemies at this corner. But the number one game ender as of right now, oh, well, this is going to be the Elite Drone. So I got to get rid of the Elite Drone first because he's going to be the number one game ender. And then the Grenadier is going to come. He doesn't really end the game a whole lot. And I got to be very, very careful with my Multrasound movements. They have to be actually perfect. So one thing I'm going to go over there is there's two reasons I survived that. Movement and passive. And I'm going to run it back as well just in case you might have missed it. So my passive is I think it's I get health of my remaining I get 50% healing off of every kill or something to that effect. I don't know what it is offhand, but I get a lot of healing after every bleed kill or melee kill. So because of that, I killed an Elite Grenadier or bled out a Elite Grenadier while I'm dealing with the Multrasound. So the timing worked out to where I was able to survive getting hit. In another situation, I could have possibly died. So there's a lot of things in that encounter that was working for me. And I failed to mention Thrill of the Hunt. So there's the passive that is I get healing off of each bleed or melee kill. Not to mention the melee resistance. So there's two things just within the passive that allowed me to survive that encounter. Because I didn't handle that encounter perfectly, and I will get into that. So, and then the Thrill of the Hunt, the Thrill of the Hunt allows me to get healing while I'm near bleeding enemies. The Multrasound and the Elite Grenadier is building. So there's three things. And then not to mention the fact that, I was baiting the Multrasound to shoot or to melee me as opposed to shooting. The thing about Multrasounds is they can be baited into meleeing, and which means they're not going to be shooting. So you want to bait them to trying to swing at you as opposed to you trying to fight them while they're just shooting their rapid-fire mulcher. If they're shooting at you and you're at close range, you have no shot of killing them. But if they're trying to hit you, it's very easy to telegraph their movement patterns. So, and then I'm going to go back into and I'll make probably a separate video about how to move with Scions, but a tip with dealing with Scions is the Scions are always going to melee with their left arm. So you can telegraph how they are going to swing at you because they're always going to swing with their left arm. All right, and you'll see this segment again. And I think I touched on everything that allowed me to survive that situation. So let's go back 30 seconds. So with the Multrasound's coming, I have the Elite Grenadier and the Elite Drone's coming too. So you just gotta be careful with the surge because enemies can come from so many directions, and you just gotta be mindful of all of that. So I get rid of the Elite Drone. The Elite Grenadier comes back this way, and I wasn't actually prepared for that. So the Multrasound's here, swing. So I moved right, which is wrong. So you want to move left. So I was just moving back and forth. You want to move left as they swing left because they're going to completely miss you. Okay, so I deal with the Pouncer. One triple combo kills him. There's another Elite Grenadier there. So the enemies just keep coming at you. You just need to be ready at all times. So I really shouldn't have done this flash and grab. This could have cost me the game, actually, because of the fact that I'm not getting bleed kills to charge my ultimate. But luckily, I'm close enough to where I get my ultimate for those two Salvo Scions. So just constantly moving, and now I have my ultimate. So now I just need to get to the middle where the Salvo Scions, and because they are like hiding around corners and the fact that they're Scions, and you got to be very, very careful of the fact because they spam their guns as well. So the only way to really deal with them safely is using my ultimate. So I use Shock Chain, and I'm mindful of the fact that Salvo Scions do not get stunned, which I touched on in my Blademaster's video. There's enemies that do not get stunned while you're in your ultimate. Salvo Scions is one of them. Wardens is another one. And Cryo Scions. I'm sure there's more, maybe even Sires. But the Salvo Scions will try to hit you while you're in your ultimate. They don't get stunned like Buzzkill Mulcher, even Drop, I believe. So you need to be wary of the fact that at any moment, a Salvo Scion can spam its shots in the game. So you got to be careful of that. So the shock chain did not kill the other Salvo Scion, which is okay because I need the extra ultimate charge. I need another ultimate to deal with the LZ enemies. So what I do here is I try to kill him with M-Bar, and then I kill all the enemies that are coming up behind me. Alright, so I stun the Salvo Scion because he can spam his shots at any minute. A Pouncer comes from probably the other side, the opposite side of where I was on. So I get some ult charge from him. The Salvo Scion deals in Venom. So here is a pivotal moment here. There's a couple ways you can handle this last section. So you have M-Bar. So the M-Bar will stun maybe 2-3 seconds. It's not as good as a flash. So the M-Bar will stun Scions, and I was actually able to get the Scions in one shot. So one of the ways I could, because I have 2 flashes intentionally for these 2 Scions, right? And I know I got to kill them both to get the ult charge, and also to win the game because they're in front of me. But I have just enough M-Bar to stun them, and I get both of them in one shot. So another way I could have handled this was using M-Bar stuns to get them both. So what I could have did was I could have stunned, ran up there meleeed, and then stunned again, and then killed both Scions. So, but I chose a different route because that didn't come to my head first. What came to my head was to stun, get closer, and flash twice. So, and I don't handle this situation perfectly, but again, I get saved by the passive and some of my skill cards that I'm using. So let's see how it goes. So they're both stunned by one M-Bar shot, and then I flash them just for insurance. So I know they're going to get unstunned, so I flash them again, and I make sure I get back into Venom, kill the Salvo Scion, and I don't handle this correctly. I roll right when he swings with his left arm, and that gets me hit. So now I have to deal with the LZ enemies. So you look at my ult charge. I believe it's 3 Scions that get you your ult again. So that's what's nice about the Surge is there's enough Scions to get that ult again when you need it. It's good. It's good that different situations work that way. Also, charging your ult is easy because you just need to do damage. I pick up the Salvo because I just need to kill like 1 or 2 enemies, and I'll have my ult for the LZ. In general, unless it's a short ultimate map, if Lahni has her ult for the LZ, the game is over. You're going to win, typically. And this goes for a lot of different solo runs that I've been a part of, except the end, because of the fact that it has short ultimate. But I have my ultimate for the LZ. I just need to not choke, basically, and the game's going to be over. So I shoot a couple of juvies, which also allows me to do it less at the LZ, and I pop my ult, and then I use Shock Chain to get the remaining enemies. Now, since Lahni can die in her ultimate, I'm very, very, almost overly careful about it, and that's why I rush to the LZ. The Scions in the Surge do not make the LZ, so I have no threat here. They just stand there. They don't push the LZ. And then that is it, fellas. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you have questions on Blademaster, or if you like this video, don't forget to like. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Blademaster and Operation 5 compared to other operations, and let me know what you thought of this solo run. This is probably one of my favorite Lahni solo runs specifically. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys, and stay tuned for the next video, and you guys have a good one. Peace.